Hi, I'm Max Walker&Williams, and today I'm having a look at Hedera Hashgraph's Governing Council. So I was visiting my dad a couple of weeks ago and he said, how come nobody really covers the Governing Council members or talks about them? And of course other YouTube creators make reference to the Governing Council, as do I in my videos. When I'm talking about something specific, I'll say Google are doing this, or it's a Hbar update, Avery Denninson are doing that. But nobody's really covered the Governing Council in any length. And so I thought I'd make this video for my dad, but also for everybody else in the community that's interested in knowing more about the Governing Council, because there are a lot of projects at the moment in the cryptographic space. If they have a coffee in Starbucks, then they'll put the Starbucks logo on their website, they're a partner. They'll have a McFlurry delivered to them by Uber Eats or whatever, and all of a sudden McDonald's is a partner. I actually know of projects that have had one meeting with a company. It didn't go anywhere, but it hasn't not gone anywhere. It's just no one's doing anything about it. And yet this company's logo is on their website as a potential partner. It doesn't say potential partner. They kind of indicate that they're already an existing partner based on having had one meeting with them. So that isn't the case with Hedera Hashgraph, because as always, Hedera Hashgraph doesn't do stuff that would be great for the price of Hbar or potentially for the adoption of Hedera today for the short term, the sugar rush. They do things properly and they do things right for a long time. And so if one of the other projects announces that they have Starbucks as a partner, everybody goes crazy, starts piling into the project, going to be big things, and then nothing comes of it. Great for a short-term pump, not so great for the long term of the project. Hedera only mention names and only reference other businesses after they've signed a contract or something is for sure definite done. And with the Governing Council member, that's one step further again. These companies aren't just involved with Hedera, but they are actually helping to run the network by having a node in a proof of stake system network. They run a node. So they're not only engaging with Hedera, but it actually costs them time and money to help run the network. Now, there are Governing Council members that are more involved than others, and that's absolutely a fact. I'll be going through that as I go through the different Governing Council members. And the other thing to note is that some people in the Hedera space get frustrated with the lack of action from some of the Governing Council members. But you have to look at it from Hedera's point of view. People forget that Hedera was a startup business, much like any other startup business. The fact that they are a cryptographic platform, they're now relatively huge, doesn't change the fact that they started as a few people with a dream and a great piece of software. But that's all it is. It was just another piece of software. And so if you were to approach the likes of Google or IBM or anybody else and were able to convince them to help you run the network, but weren't committing to doing anything more, would you accept them? Well, of course you would. They're some of the largest brands in the world. And so I do think at the beginning of the creation of the Governing Council, Hedera may have been more willing to accept Governing Council members who are less committal than they would probably want today. But that has now changed, I believe. And I actually think that Hedera or the Hbar Foundation have actually publicly said that they are now changing the criteria for the Governing Council memberships. And if you want to become a Governing Council member, you have to have a reason for joining, a use case potentially, or be at least exploring something that you can do on the network. We're not anymore looking for just bums on seats. We actually want people who are going to develop and build and turn that interest into actual transactions per second on the mainnet, which is a great thing for Hedera and for all Hbarbarians. And another thing that's happening as well is that some of these huge companies are really starting to warm up, not just to Web3, but to Hedera specifically too. And I'll be giving you at the very end a huge announcement that came out only yesterday for one of the Governing Council members on Hedera Hashgraph. It's Google, so you're going to want to watch this, I promise. Okay, so let's jump straight into it. By the way, these are in alphabetical order, and I've had to do something, or I'm going to have to do something I've never done before in a YouTube video. There are so many Governing Council members, and I wanted to make the text large enough for me and you hopefully to read, And so I'm actually going to have to film this video in 2 parts. I'm going to have to film it now with these guys, and then I have to take the board down, clear it, rewrite it for the second half. So I get all the information in this one video, and I get it all on the board. So it's a bit of a pain for me, but I should learn to write smaller, I guess, or use a digital board. But there we go, that's my cross to bear. Okay, jumping straight into it, ABRDN, a relatively new governing council member. They're a global investment firm. They're a FTSE 100 company, which means they're one of the largest, top 100 largest companies on the stock exchange. Established in 1825 in Scotland. They have 5,000 employees. They have £376 billion. That's about $410 billion under management. Their revenue last year was £1.538 billion. Their revenue last year. I haven't seen them announce that they're doing anything on Hedera yet, but I would expect an announcement relatively soon because they are a new addition to the GC, to the Hedera Governing Council. And so I would like to think that when they were onboarded, that they came to the table with something that they wanted to explore. Avery Denninson, material science and digital identification company, established 1935 in the USA. They have 36,000 employees, and their revenue last year was £9.039 billion, which is about $11 billion. Massive company, and of course, Avery Denison are the ones that did that incredible demonstration at Davos. If you aren't following me on Twitter, you are missing out because the use case that these guys have come up with is absolutely amazing. You go up to materials, trainers in a shop, you look at the label, there's a QR code, put your phone to it, takes you immediately to a website, shows you where that trainer was made, transported, where the materials have come from, and most importantly, the CO2 that has been generated in the creation of that product. And so if you want to buy a premium product and you want a clear conscience doing so, Avery Denison are going to be facilitating that. And the impact of that is huge for the world. Because once some of the largest companies in the world start doing this, people will flock to them, and then the others will have to do it, and free market capitalism will take care of the rest. Interestingly, I do believe that Avery Denison have just signed up Adidas for their app. So that is going to be absolutely massive. And I've also done a short video previously, I'll put a link in the description below, to a huge Japanese retail chain that are using this technology in their checkouts. You load up 6, 7, 8, 10, 20 things into your basket. You don't have to scan it at the self-checkout. You literally just put the basket into the self-checkout, and within 2 seconds, it tells you all the items in there and how much you've got to pay. No scanning to be done. And you apply that technology to the likes of tubes for Amazon delivery and stuff, and wow, it's just massive. And I think this is playing a huge part in the circa 1,000 transactions per second that we are currently seeing on the mainnet. I looked at the mainnet transaction total only a day and a half ago, and it was 7.5 billion transactions. At the moment, just before starting filming this, it was at 7.7 billion. So 200 million transactions since I looked less than 2 days ago. Boeing, design, build, sell aeroplanes, rockets, missiles, and telecommunication satellite equipment. They are the world's largest aerospace company. Of course, everyone will think it's SpaceX because they are the most publicized, but in fact, Boeing are the largest in the world. Established 1916 in the USA, they have 141,000 employees. Revenue last year, £71.608 billion. What's that? $85 billion, there or thereabouts. Chainlink Labs. Oh, Boeing are one of the ones, by the way, that I'm personally most frustrated by because I know that the Hedera Hashgraph technology could do so much for their business. I mean, imagine a company that sells missiles and you can tag or identify each of the parts of the missile, and you can remotely make it work, remotely kill it. If that missile got into the wrong hands, generally, from what I understand about the arms trade, people don't sell whole missiles, but they sell the parts. So they break it down, much like a stolen car. You get more money for the parts, and it's easier to get rid of. So you take the engine out, you sell the engine, you sell the tail lights, whatever. A very similar thing happens, I'm led to believe, in the illegal arms trade. So if a missile gets into the wrong hands, can you imagine how powerful it would be if those parts could be tracked, or if they didn't work unless with NFT technology, with Hedera Hashgraph, you could take the part out of the missile, but unless it's with its other original components, it will not work in another missile, even if it's from Boeing themselves. And that's just one example of some of the things that Boeing could be doing so much more efficiently if they would engage with Hedera Hashgraph. And maybe they are, because these are huge use cases, but I haven't seen or heard anything from anybody about Boeing on Hedera Hashgraph, and I think that's a great shame for Boeing more than anybody. Chainlink Labs provides secure open source blockchain oracle solutions. What the hell does that mean? So what that means is they do something very, very cool. If you have, for example, a tractor in a field and it's autonomous, so it drives itself, much like the smaller machines that you see mowing people's lawns or hoovering their ground. In the future, we're going to have, and today we already have, but more and more in the future, we're going to see autonomous tractors mowing fields. It's recording information on a physical device that is sending those messages to a computer somewhere, saying, I'm running out of fuel. There's something wrong with the field. It's not in real life as I've been told it is in my schematics. There's a tree that's grown in the way, or whatever the information might be. It's starting to rain. The crops are too moist. I have to stop harvesting. But it records all of this information, which can then be used for scientists and things to improve agriculture. And that's what these Chainlink Labs guys do. They facilitate that system. They build the physical hardware for the tractor and also the software to make the whole thing work. Established 2017 in the USA, they have 360 employees and they turned over £57.6 million last year, about $65 million, I guess. Deutsche Telecom, telecommunications provider, largest in Europe by revenue. So they're like a mobile phone, or in America, a cell phone provider, and they are the largest in Europe by revenue. Established in 1995 in Germany, they have 226,291 employees. Their revenue last year was £122 billion. I guess, I don't know, but that's about $135 billion. So really, really serious company. These are another one that I think could do so much on Hedera Hashgraph, and I'm yet to see much come out of them yet. Unfortunate, and if I was at Hedera and I was sort of dealing with the governing council, I'd be putting a little bit of pressure on these guys now, saying, look, we need to see something, or if Hedera isn't for you, thanks for your time, thanks for all the help, but you take up space. DLA Piper, legal firm, top 4 largest in the world. Now, I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Andrew Gastworth, who is the DLA Piper, and he's the representative for DLA Piper at Hedera Hashgraph Governing Council. Fantastic man. If you haven't watched that interview, I'll put a link in the description below. You really should. Such a straight talker, fantastic guy. DLA Piper are one of the governing council members that are really enthusiastic about Hedera Hashgraph and the technology, and they're heavily involved, as you'll know if you've seen that interview. After this one, I honestly highly recommend you watch that one if you just want to see the actual person behind the brand and see what they think of Hedera Hashgraph, so you're not just taking my word for it. The other interesting thing is I put top 4 largest in the world because by some metrics they are, but these law firms, it depends how you measure them. There's revenue, number of employees, number of countries, etc. But yeah, by number of employees, and speaking generally, DLA Piper are the 4th largest legal firm in the world, and that does change occasionally. Established 2005 London. So these guys are not messing about. They were established in 2005, and they're the 4th largest legal firm in the world. 14,000 employees, £7.2 billion in revenue last year, so probably $8.5 billion. Really, really impressive, and they are doing fantastic things on Hedera, and I know that firsthand. EFTPOS, very strange name until I realised that it stands for Electronic Funds Transfer at Point of Sale. So I think somebody somewhere, very wise, said, let's not call ourselves Electronic Fund Transfer at Point of Sale, let's call ourselves EFTPOS. I think there was a vote, and I hope it was unanimous. So EFTPOS, established 1984, same year I was born, in Australia, Oz. They have 125 employees, and they had revenue turnover last year of 148 billion. So it's quite interesting to see the different companies and how many employees the more tech companies have and how many employees the more sort of industrial companies have. You know, when you look at Boeing, for example, they have 141,000 employees, EFTPOS 125. I think WhatsApp was sold to Facebook at the time, now Meta, and they bought it for, what is it? Leave it. If you know the exact number, please leave it in the comments below because I'd love to be told. But I'm sure it was $1 billion and they had 12 employees. So funny. These guys, I believe they're the largest. So what does this all mean? They are the largest debit card terminal and provider in Australia. So you open a shop, you want a PDQ machine, a payment terminal, somebody comes in with a debit card and taps it. That's what those guys do in Australia. And I have heard that they've taken longer than I'd like, personally, but I have heard that these guys are starting to do big things on Hedera that may be around micropayments and may be centered around some sort of central bank digital currency. So that's really one to watch. It's a slow burn because, of course, there's a lot. You know, you're talking about people's money, so it's pretty serious. But yeah, they're definitely one to watch. Slow burn, one to watch. FIS, financial services tech provider, focusing on retail and institutional banking, payments, asset and wealth management. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have put the and there. Asset, wealth management, risk and compliance. Established in 1968, USA, they have 65,000 employees. And last year they had revenue totaling £15.83 billion. So judging on my maths, that's probably about $17 billion. So another one. I haven't seen much out of those guys, but again, what I have noticed with the financial guys, it's a much slower burn than it is with the kind of B2C, business to customer retail elements, like the app with Avery Dentons, amazing, fantastic. With the financial stuff, I think it takes a little bit longer because rightly so, there's a lot more regulation. Google, might have heard of those guys. So Google are a search engine. If you haven't heard of them, I'm not entirely sure how you're watching this video. Established 1998, USA. I would have guessed that Google had far fewer employees than they do. And I mean, absolutely no disrespect to the 135,000 people they employ, but I'm not entirely sure what all those people are doing because every other kind of similar tech company has an order of magnitude fewer customers. Revenue last year, £292.83 billion. That's $335,800 million. Yeah, $292,000 million revenue last year. Now, Google have been a sleeping giant on Hedera, and they're probably everybody's go-to when they're having a gripe about the governing council, because they're one of the they are the largest by revenue, and because they're in the space, and because they're business to business, and because they're business to customer, and because what they do in our lives. I mean, the name Google's become synonymous with searching something. Oh, could you Google it? So we get it, right? Google, it's Google, okay? And so when people are griping about the governing council members not doing enough, not engaging with the community, and so on and so forth, Google is usually the go-to for the reasons I've just stated. But I don't know if you heard the announcement yesterday, but if you didn't, I'll be telling you about it in a second. In an update I did a couple of weeks ago, somebody at Google at the last governing council meeting, because don't forget, everything on Hedera is transparent, so they publish all the minutes from the meetings that they have. And in the meeting, I noticed that somebody thanked Google for offering to hold the next governing council member meeting, because it's in person, the next physical governing council member meeting at Google Cloud headquarters. I thought that's really interesting because they're starting to engage. And not only that, they're willing to facilitate all these people coming to them. You know, there's a cost to that. And I know it's not huge when you're making that kind of money, but nevertheless, it's a cost. And someone somewhere in Google, higher up than that person potentially, has had to authorize that. You know, these people physically coming onto their property, the insurance and all the other stuff that goes into it, and all making sure the space is available, there's refreshments, there's food. You know, it takes time in companies of this size. So it's not like you saying to your mate, do you want to come over to my house? It's much, much bigger than that. And so if Google aren't just turning up to meetings and sort of pretending and playing at it, but they're actually starting, after some time, they're warming up and they're starting to engage. I thought it's really interesting. It's something, and I said in my last video, it's something to keep an eye on. Now I know why they were asking if they could hold the next governing council meeting at Google. And in a minute, you're going to know too. And if you're into Hedera and Hbar, it's incredibly exciting. Okay, I'm going to have to stop this video now, and I'm going to have to clean the board, pain in the backside, and I'm going to have to put it, the second part of this back on, but we'll do it all in one video. So bear with me just 1 second, and I'll get this cleared, and then we'll start again. Okay, I'm back, and I have now redone the board for the second part of this video. It's something I'm not looking to do again, I'll be completely honest. Really, really tricky. Couple of problems. Oh, and by the way, if you want to ever see me draw the actual board, I do put that on my Twitter, at @Walker&Williams. And of course, I'll put a link in the description below. If you're not following me on Twitter, if you don't have a Twitter account, I really think it's worth it. Click the link in the description below. Follow me, and if you don't have an account, set one up. And you can see behind the scenes, you can have a bit of fun. You can see me drawing this and struggling to carry it and all that sort of good stuff. Two things have gone wrong since I last spoke to you. The first thing is that I realised that the two governing council members that were here, I didn't talk about, DBS Bank and Dell, and then I washed the board, so that's fantastic. But I will be talking about them in a second. If you are watching this and you happen to be at Dell or DBS Bank, I meant no disrespect at all. It was just a genuine oversight on my part, and I will be covering you guys in a sec. And then the second problem is, I forgot what the second problem is. What's the second problem? The second problem is that I've had to make them all a lot smaller in order to fit everything in, but I've managed to do it on one more board because there's no way I'm doing three. To be honest, as much as I love doing this, it is so painstaking. So that's that. Okay. Oh, another thing to say just quickly before we move on. If you are watching this video today now, and it's just been released, general release live, you could have watched this video a week ago if you simply owned a Walker&Williams partnership program NFT. There is a link in the description below. Have a look at it. If you know nothing about NFTs, don't worry about that. It's easy peasy. Although you should know something about NFTs if you've ever watched any of my videos. I'll put a link in the description below. What is an NFT? I'll do that for you. But I'll also put a link to the Walker&Williams partnership program. Really helped me out, supports me, and also gives you guys utility. We have a quarterly meeting on Zoom or Teams, and we discuss what's going to be coming up next, what I'm doing in my personal life, what's happening with the businesses, what's happening with Utopian Lab, and you get early access to the YouTube videos as well. So really worth considering, and I really appreciate the community and the support that I get there. There's going to be something happening soon with this board, which you would know about in the next meeting with the Walker&Williams partnerships program members. I'm going to be discussing what I'm doing with this board. Something I think that's incredibly unique and fun. So we're going to be doing something with the board, physically with the board. And yeah, if you want to know about that way ahead of time for anybody else, you definitely need to look at the Walker&Williams partnership. Okay, enough about that. So I now need to talk about DBS Bank and Dell. And to do that, I'm going to have to break character, I'm afraid, and unlock this phone and look at my notes. Okay, so DBS Bank, they're obviously a banking and financial services company. They were established in 1968 in Singapore. They have 33,000 employees and revenue last year totaling £12.858 billion, about $10 billion. Again, with all of the financial guys, we're seeing a pattern here. Not too much happening on Hedera at the moment, but I have heard about some of them. I've heard about some of them doing different things, and Standard Bank, which we'll get to in a second, is a great example of that. Again, massive potential, bit of a slow burn. Dell, the latest governing council member of Hedera Hashgraph, very happy to have them on board. Massive, massive company. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys as always. I hadn't heard of Dell as much recently as I have done in the past. You would walk into an office and you'd see Dell on the physically stamped on the computers. So I hadn't realised how big they are until I looked into them for the Hedera, for this video, for the Hedera Governing Council video. They're obviously a technology company, and they sell, repair, and provide support for computers, related products and services. They're based in the USA. They were established in 1984, which seems to be a great year for governing council members and also for me, and especially my parents, as the year I was born. They're based in the USA. They have 133,000 employees and revenue last year of £112 billion, about $101.197 billion. I have covered Dell very recently in my last update video when Dell announced that they were joining the Governing Council membership. A fantastic addition, and there's a really great interview with Zenobia Godschalk, who I had the pleasure of interviewing at Davos. She is the president of communications at Swirlds Labs, and she interviews Steve Todd, who is the representative from Dell, who's going to be pushing Dell, onto the Hedera network. And he talks so enthusiastically about Hedera Hashgraph, about cryptographic technology in general, that I'm really excited to see what Dell come out with. And they have so many customers that are huge companies in their own rights. A lot of the S&P 500, largest 500 companies in America. And so they are going to be a massive use case. And again, they're a little bit late to the party. And so they will be adhering to the new criteria of some, you've got to do stuff. You can't just put your name to it. So it's going to be really interesting to see what's coming out of Dell in the coming months, years. That is going to be really, really exciting. Okay, so that's the last board done. New board, Dentons, largest multinational law firm in the world. So we've got the fourth and the first largest law firms in the world, based everywhere because they are. Established in 2013. So again, these guys are not messing about. They've gone from being nothing in 2012 to not existing in 2012 to being the largest law firm today. So they've achieved far more than I have to say. They have 20,000 employees and revenue last year of $101.197 billion. Wow, 112 billion pounds. EDF, and by the way, Dentons, they're an unusual one. They're doing a lot in the cryptographic space that through osmosis is going to help Hedera Hashgraph, I believe, but they're not doing anything that I've heard of specifically on Hedera. What do I mean? So I did a video a couple of months ago, and Dentons are one of the advising law firms, as are DLA Piper, to the Saudi Arabia, for example. So Saudi Arabia is looking to become a friendly place for crypto, for cryptographic-based businesses, for crypto technology, and all of this great stuff that I talk about. They're trying to center themselves, put themselves right in the middle of the global drive towards cryptographic technologies, and they got together some of the world's best advisors, legal firms and so on, to help them create laws, help them create the infrastructure that they need so that everybody has a level playing field, everybody knows where they stand, which is what I wish they would get sorted in America, but that's a whole different video. And they want transparency, clarity, and a level playing field. And guess who two of the three law firms that they asked to advise them on how the law should be set up? You're absolutely right, Dentons and DLA Piper. So two Hedera Hashgraph governing council members were at the table with the Saudi Arabian government, helping them set up the new environment, the new ecosystem that they're hoping will help flourish cryptographic technology. EDF Energy. Clues in the title, they are an energy provider, so they utilities, heating, gas, electric. Established 2002 in France, they have 11,516 employees and revenue last year totaling £107 billion, about $125 billion. I've seen some articles, I've read some articles, shall I say, with EDF Energy talking very excitedly about Hedera Hashgraph, particularly with the carbon offsetting and with tracking, with people paying back into the grid with renewable energy and all that sort of stuff. Haven't seen anything yet, but again, that's one to watch. IBM, standing for International Business Machines, established way earlier than I would have guessed. I don't know what you put in the comments below when you think IBM was established. Obviously, when you know now because I'm about to tell you, but when you thought it might have been established. Established in 1911 in the USA, they employ 288,300 people. Revenue last year of $72.53 billion, about 89 billion, 72.53 billion pounds, about $89 billion. Market cap, this was impressive, a market cap of 122.24 billion pounds, and they are in the S&P 100. I haven't put where most of the company's positions are because I don't want to give you too much information, but suffice to say that most of the USA-based companies, if not all of the USA-based companies are, no, not all, because Chainlink Labs wouldn't be, but most of the big ones in terms of revenue are all in the S&P 500, which is the largest, top 100 largest companies in America. And by being the largest company in America, you're generally the largest company in the world too. Not always, but generally. So yeah, they're in the S&P 100. LG stands for Life's Good. Life's Good was established in 1958 in Korea. They make TVs, electronics, blenders, all that kind of stuff, white goods in your home. I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with LG. Employees, 34,600. Revenue last year of £79 billion, about $91 billion. And LG, of course, are very active now. They were another sleeping giant. We heard nothing from anyone. And then all of a sudden, they released LG Art Labs. They are pushing wholeheartedly, and I love to see it, with their TVs becoming NFT displays for art. But they've also got LG Art Lab, where they're helping creators create non-fungible token-based art to display on their TVs. These guys, I'm rooting for them. I hope they are first to market and bring out a fantastic product, because we have some incredible artists creating incredible things. We need physical, we've got software, we need hardware, so we need physical things to really see this come to life. That is how NFTs become mainstream, is when you start seeing them on TVs. Because it's all very well and good having a fantastic oil painting on your wall, but it's just an oil painting. But if you could have that oil painting, and when you're not, wanting to look at it, you can check the weather, watch the news, and use it as a TV. And particularly when you're tight of wall space, as everyone's going down to smaller living, more compact living in cities, wall space is at a premium. Would you rather have two, pictures on your wall, acrylics, whatever they may be, or would you rather have one TV with 10,000 pictures, and depending on your mood, you can have whatever you like, and when you're not looking at art, you can watch TV. ITT, based in India, they're a technology-based university established in 1959. Employees only 1,750 and students 8,000. So they're a very small institution, academic institution, a university, but they're very specialist too. They specialize in technology, which is obviously a fantastic partner to have on a cryptographic platform. And there's something really interesting about India at the moment in the crypto space. I think, and it comes in part because of the way America is at the moment. So America and the SEC in particular seem to be trying to suppress innovation in the cryptographic space. The SEC have got about 50 cases open at the moment on different platforms, including XRP, Ripple. And so while they're trying to stifle it, India and other countries, emerging countries in particular, have recognized the opportunity. They understand what the technology is. And I think there's a little bit of political power play here, where they might be able to get an edge on America if they can welcome, like Saudi Arabia, India, if they can set out a really tax efficient environment with support and the networks and everything else that Saudi Arabia are looking at doing, India might be able to take the edge on America. And where does that lead to? If those businesses are based there, all the sort of good stuff that comes from big businesses growing and developing, and small businesses becoming big businesses in your space, in your country, can only benefit the wider community. And so it's really interesting to see all of the information coming out of India at the moment. The government are talking about trialling CBDCs, central bank digital currency. They're talking about innovation and support and grants. And we've got the university on the Hedera Hashgraph Council. So hopefully they've got roads into the government and some of these decision makers. LSE, London School of Economics. Of course, I've had the absolute pleasure of interviewing my friend Dr. Carsten Sorensen, who is the representative from LSE for the Hedera Governing Council's chair. It's a university, of course, established 1895 in London. Employees 23,260, students 8,896. Wow. Those students have got like 3 to 1 in terms of staff, so they must get, I'm thinking they must pay a lot, but they must get a great service, to be fair. And I've been to the university, of course, and I've sat with Dr. Carsten Sorensen, and if the rest of the team, I'm not just saying this, if the rest of the team are anything like him, wow, they really are getting a great service. Fantastic, very active community member, and they've got lots of incubators within the university, people who are studying, looking to build a business. People from large businesses come to the university to sort of learn more and add to their resume, and they're getting the exposure to the Hedera Hashgraph network and the potential of that. And then they're learning about it, they're building businesses on it, or trial cases or studies or whatever it might be, research papers on this technology, and then they're going back to these massive businesses with all that information. So not the most visceral, you don't see what's going on, but I've seen firsthand behind the scenes. Believe me, they're doing great things for the Hedera Hashgraph network. Magalu, one of Brazil's largest retailers, founded in 1957 in Brazil, of course. Employees 24,000. And what I thought was really impressive about this is their revenue was £72.2 billion last year. Again, about $85 billion. But that's in Brazil. And the exchange rate between the United States dollar and the Great British Pound and Brazil won't be fantastic. So to do that kind of revenue in a country where the exchange rate isn't great is even more impressive. I haven't seen anything out of them as of yet, but I am hopeful because these guys are another potentially I haven't seen anything out of them yet, but these guys are another one I'm really hopeful for because they've got great potential as a use case. You can just imagine going back to the Avery Denninson use case. If Avery Denninson need to get on the phone to these guys and said, do you want to trial these in your checkouts? That would be fantastic. Servicenow, software company specializing in cloud-based computing platforms, established 2004 in the USA. Employees 20,433. Revenue £8.245 billion, about $11 billion in 22 of last year. Shinhan Bank, the first bank in Korea and also the largest today, established 1897 in Korea, of course. Employees 20,000, revenue £22.04 billion last year, circa $26 billion. I haven't seen again, but this is the same sort of story with all the financial guys except for Standard Bank, and they're up next. Standard Bank, Africa's largest bank by assets. They have £190 billion in assets on their balance sheet. Established in 1862 in South Africa. Employees 54,767. Revenue £2.4867 billion last year. And again, that's super impressive given that the rand is really weak against the pound. So, that equivalent money in South Africa is 8 to 10 times what it is it would be in the UK. Standard Bank, so there's been so much talk, and again, Africa's another example, like India, like Saudi Arabia, of these countries that are grabbing this opportunity with both hands. There are so many people unbanked, unable to provide ID, unable to get a job because of the situation that they are in. And Standard Bank are working incredibly hard to try and alleviate a lot of the issues that people are really facing all over Africa, but in South Africa too, in order to get them banked so they can start saving money, they're not being mugged, etc. And so all of the things that we take for granted in the first world, I think it's absolutely fantastic the work they're doing, and they're working hard and they're quite vocal about it. So I'm really excited to see an application or a DApp, a decentralized application, come out from Standard Bank. Nomura is a financial holding company, established 1925 in Japan. Employees 26,402, revenue of £4.12 billion in 22, about, what's that? Sorry, it's 9.1. Okay. Nomura, financial holding company, established 1925 in Japan. Employees 26,402 and a revenue totaling £9.12 billion last year, which is about $13 billion. Tata Communications, Communications and network services specializing in customer engagement and experiences. Their network engages with 400 million people. That's their network. So whether it's somebody using one of those automatic chat apps, support things on a website, or using one of their services, basically 400 million people. They're in 190 plus countries. They carry circa 30% of the world's internet routes. 30% of the entire planet's internet routes are facilitated by Tata Communications. Established in 1986 in India, employees 12,935, revenue totaling 2.303 billion pounds, about $3.9 billion dollars. Tata Communications, what a fantastic thing. 30% of the world's internet routes. I would love to see something happening there. Can you imagine the number of transactions per second they could put through the Hedera mainnet and should be doing? Ubisoft, my personal largest disappointment to date. I have to be completely honest, as always. They're a video games publisher. They've produced games like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Tom Clancy series. So if you're into gaming, you'll know some of those titles, if not all of them. Massive company. Established in 1988 in France. Employees 2,665. Revenue last year of £2.02 billion. About 3.8 billion, less than that, $3.4 billion. And the reason I'm disappointed with these guys is because their use case is an absolute shoo-in and people are already going to market with products. NFTs has got to be the obvious one. And again, if you're going to watch that video after this one about what is an NFT, how do they work, once you've watched that, you'll agree with me that these guys need to get on board. They really do. And I have to be honest, again, as always, I haven't heard them make a single noise about Hedera. It's incredibly hard to find them engaged with Hedera at all, other than the board meetings, etc. So outside of Hedera, it doesn't seem to be happening with Ubisoft yet. And that's not to say they're not doing something. But I'd love just personally to know more about that, because it's such an easy and easy route to market, and not just for the sake of it. The revenue would be massive for Ubisoft, and the interactions and the touch points with Hedera would be fantastic. UCL, University of College London. Clues in the title, they're a university. Established in 1826 in London. They have 16,000 employees and 43,800 students. Paolo Tasca. So the last video I did, the one before this one, was an interview. I had the honour of interviewing Dr. Paolo Tasca. Fantastic man. The founder and director of the largest blockchain research centre in the world. Very, very engaged with Hedera. Fantastic man. Research centre. If you ever see those energy consumption charts and it shows Hedera sort of titchy 8 times more efficient than Visa, that's Paolo and his team that have done that independent research. I go to a lot of the cryptographic based events, crypto events, NFT events, and if there's a Hedera booth, Paolo is normally there doing his good work. Okay, and finally, Wipro, an information tech consulting and business processes service provider and cyber security experts. So these are the guys that kind of put infrastructure into big businesses. So I've got 10,000 people in 60 different countries, and I need everyone to have emails and servers and secure rooms and all that kind of stuff, the kind of stuff that you would perfectly build on Hedera Hashgraph. That's what these guys are doing. Established 1945 in India, they have 231,671 employees, and revenue last year of £11.125 billion, about $13.5 billion. Oh, not last but least, of course, and by no means the last, is the Zen Group. The Zen Group, very much like Deutsche Telecom, they're a mobile telephone provider, so they're a cell service if you're in America. They're established in 1983 in Kuwait. They have 49.5 million active users, 2,659 employees, and they turned over £507 million, or about $800 million last year. So this is the really fun bit. We're just going to quickly, if we put all this together, what does it mean? So this is the really fun bit for me anyway. I enjoy doing this bit. And then we're going to talk about Google. I've made a note to myself there not to forget to tell you about Google. So the total revenue of all of the governing council members, excluding Swirlds Labs, because I haven't mentioned them, because I've done an extensive video on Swirlds Labs. I think I did it in the last couple of videos ago about Hbar supply. I'll put a link in the description below to that video too, and I cover Swirlds Labs and why I think they're fantastic value for money. Swirlds Labs are obviously the team that used to be at Hedera, so I've kind of done this about the governing council member, excluding, you know, Hedera itself, Swirlds Labs, etc. This is about third-party governing council members, if you like. So total revenue, £1.65 trillion last year. That's 1650, okay, 1,650, 000, 000, 000. That's £137.5 billion a month, or £4,520 million a day. £4,520 million a day, every day last year. They have 1.6, so they have 1,607,534 employees. And by the way, these numbers are based on last year, so assuming the companies have continued to grow, these numbers may even be higher. They have 1,607,534 employees between them. That's about the equivalent of all of the people living in Dallas and all of the people living in Manchester, England. That's two very big cities of people, 1.6 million people. And I just thought I'd do something quite interesting with Hbar, because obviously Hedera gets some beef because there's 50 billion Hbar, but I hope you agree that some of these use cases, I mean, they've got 50 million customers. These guys have got 400 million customers. These guys are the largest retailer in Brazil. Only a few of these businesses have to go sort of global in their use cases with Hedera Hashgraph, and genuinely, I'm not sure if there's enough Hbar. Okay, so if you took, at today's price, and I checked this morning, Hbar is at 5 pence in UK, or 6 cents in USD, which blows my mind. I genuinely believe it's the most undervalued asset of any assets in the world. If the companies, if the GC members were to say, okay, we're going to give each of our employees £1,500 bonus this year at Christmas, or $1,866 bonus this Christmas, but we're going to give it to them in Hbar, there wouldn't be enough. There's just not enough because I've rounded down. That would be 31,103 Hbar, and that doesn't include the stuff that's already being staked by people like me that isn't available in circulating supply. But if you just took all the Hbar, 50 billion, and you wanted to give every employee 31,103, there would be no Hbar left for anybody else. £1,500, $1,800 to each one of the governing council members' employees, and that's it. All the Hbar's gone. And there's still 6-7 spots left for the governing council members, and I can't wait to learn who's coming on next. I hope you found this video entertaining and informational. It's interesting to touch into each of these companies. I could do a deep dive on any, because actually as you start to dig into them, they're really, really interesting. And what's really been interesting is comparing sort of the number of employees, the number of much turnover when they were founded. Some were far newer, younger than I thought they were, and some far, far older. Oh, Google. I was going to say goodbye then, and I almost forgot Google. I even wrote a note to myself. I'm going to read this out word for word. This was announced yesterday. So just to recap, Google have said very, very, very little about Hedera Hashgraph, if anything, since they came on the governing council members, and they were one of the first. Then all of a sudden, a light switch. The sleeping giant has woken up. At the last governing council member meeting, they offered to hold the next physical meeting at their cloud HQ offices, and I thought that was really interesting, but I didn't dare dream of what was going to come next. I knew something was going to happen, because why would they be inviting all these people to their offices if maybe it's just a gesture, but let's see. But now we know, as of yesterday. We're excited to announce that the new Google Cloud #Web3 Startup Program has launched with benefits for builders on the Hedera Network. So Google have launched a startup program for cryptographic based businesses. This will enable startups to build world-class scalable applications with the resources of Google Cloud and the Hbar Foundation. Through this program, Google Cloud will help startups on Hedera to build on the Google Cloud fully managed serverless platform at no cost, as well as provide the resources and community to build a world-class DApp, decentralized app application. As part of the Google for Startups Cloud program benefits, startups are eligible for, number one, up to $200,000 over 2 years in Google Cloud credits. 2, support from the Hbar Foundation. 3, Google Cloud technical and collaboration support, as well as Web3 specific benefits, early access to Google Cloud Web3 products and roadmap, hands-on learning labs and Google Cloud courses, gated Discord channel with Google Cloud Web3 product and engineering teams, VIP access to Google Cloud Web3 community events. You can sign up for the Web3 program to leverage the power of Hashgraph today, and there's a link. I will put that link in the description below. Wow. So Google haven't just sort of made an announcement, we're going to be looking at Hedera now, or we realise we're on it and we're going to take it seriously, or we're thinking of building a product, or we are building our own product. They're actually putting money up, services up, people up, creating Discord groups, creating communities. They're creating a business incubator. Google are creating a business incubator for businesses, and they're going to support them, help them, facilitate them, fund them to grow their businesses on Hedera Hashgraph technology with Google Cloud. I mean, that is a earth-shaking announcement, but there is so much, and I keep saying this, and it could be a problem, by the way. There is so much going on Hedera that people haven't got time to take it all in, and everything is just growing and growing, and we're really starting to see this mushroom take shape. We're at 7.7 billion transactions on the mainnet. We did more transactions last month than all of the other platforms put together. This is an exciting time to be in Hedera Hashgraph, and I cannot wait for the price of Hbar to reflect the value of Hbar. As always, thanks ever so much for watching. I'll see you soon.